Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour et bienvenue à vous tous.
Good morning to you all. Thank you very much for joining us, for those of you who are online. Nicolas Amsellem is one of the specialists in watch repairs, and he's going to share experiences, and he's going to talk about the experiences that people should know about.
Est-ce que ça fonctionne? Bonjour à toutes.
Good morning to you all, and it really is a pleasure to have you here this morning. I'm not used to actually speaking in public like this. My name is Nicolas Amsellem, and I have created a magazine which speaks about modern-day watchmaking, collection watchmaking, and I think that that is what is important in our world universe. I'm going to talk to you about my experience as a journalist at a salon such as this. I'll give you a few anecdotes as well, and then the format of the salon, why it exists, so what's the purpose of this salon, and what you can find here in the salon. Let me say something by way of anecdote. On Monday at 6:18 in the morning, let me just show you this Lyria train which comes from Paris. It takes me from Paris to Geneva, and that's what we started the week with. You've got to go and visit all the brands. There are about 50, and we try and schedule different meetings and lunches, and we think that everything's going to go well. We arrived in Geneva. It took 3 hours. You put all your stuff in the hotel, leave it in your room, and you start to make sure you're properly dressed. The salon here is a kind of a micro-fashion week, and everybody tries to judge the other. And sometimes you come along with very, very brightly colored jackets, and that's why a lot of people actually suffer from epilepsy. No, that's a joke. Now, arrival in the salon. I'd say that you can see on the left-hand side, you can see the Rolex building, which you'll be able to see a bit later on, hopefully. And there are touch and feel sessions. And so you can see, you can touch the watches. It's not an erotic film, but this is something that is perhaps close to it. But you can see people who come close to you, explain to you the technical characteristics of the watches, etc. Now, what is a bit worrying here is that people start giving you loads of information on the social network. They put videos up, they put things on TikTok, and tension starts to rise. So you think, well, of course, you're going to have to start getting your foot in the door and saying things which others haven't said yet. Now, let me talk about the experience from a watchmaker repair perspective.
Et voilà.
That was that. So you can see videos being published. You've got to get the information out to the people watching. It's 1 o'clock then on Monday, and you think, well, my calendar is all ready, and the next meeting is 13:30, and it's like that all week you've started to exchange or reschedule meetings. You've got one meeting after another, and your brain stops working or goes into overdrive, and you realize that you've got to go back to your hotel, change, wash your face quickly, go back to the next meeting, and even though you think you should perhaps take a bit of rest, in effect, it's really impossible. You've got to be on the go all the time. So the end of the week comes soon, but the most interesting is to really be able to step back a bit, to process the information you've heard. And the end of the week arrives. It's when you really get, when you realize that you're quite tired, and then people start to recognize you, and people say, well, Nicolas, do you want to do an interview with me? And then you think, okay, I could do this. Well, it's the weekend now. I might be able to do that. Perhaps I didn't get a lot of pleasure out of all this because it is all work, but I've nevertheless enjoyed it, I must admit. Now, I think that you're lucky to be here today. Now, I'm not saying this in a haughty manner, but as a professional, this is something which people expect, look forward to. You know you're going to see lots of important things, but you know it's going to be a difficult week. You're going to be tired. You're going to be able to really film things all the time, write articles all the time, so it's quite difficult to keep a lid on all this. So this is an important slide. I wanted to talk about Watch and Wonders. After the disappearance of the salon, which was called Basel World, the last H&H meeting became Watches and Wonder, and it became the annual meeting. It is the salon where you are today. There is no more important or interesting salon anywhere in the world, and it's certainly the largest. Now, I think that a sector such as this really needs to bring people together in order to live. You've got to have journalists, you've got to have distributors, people who live the brands, allow the brands to live. And I think that you have a space here too. Now, in the past, it was a bit difficult because now, on the weekend, the salon is open to the public. So I think it is a great pleasure for you to be able to have access to the different stands. Watches and Wonders, a bit of a microcosm of the watchmaker's universe. How is all this structured? There are certain brands are part of a group, like the Richemont group, which have a specific vision. But there are certain family-based brands, Rolex, Tudor, Patek Philippe are cases in point. And if you go around, you'll see all the different trends in watchmaking, how things are evolving through the 20th century to the 21st century. For example, integrated bracelets. This was something that was really established in the 1970s, and now is taking off again. You've got the engineer model at IWC, for example. So this is a very broad trend. Now, we professionals from the sector have access to all the stands, which is, of course, a good thing. But what are you going to be able to see? I've put a plan up on the screen. And for the jewelry stands, you've got Van Cleef & Arpels, Cartier, you've got Lange & Sons, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Panerai, the Italian brands, Piaget, Vacheron Constantin, and Montblanc, who are purely watchmakers. From the Richemont group, which is part of LSVH, this is also part of the salon. Now, I think that it's important that you don't need to see everything. Perhaps you're going to discover other things in the center. There is a thing called the square, La Place in French. You can see some of the smaller brands, smaller in terms of size only. And you've got fine watchmakers, independent watchmakers, which perpetuate certain trends. And I would encourage you to go up a floor and to look at an exhibition. There are photographs of wrist and wrist watches. I think that's very interesting. And also to go and have a look at the lab. There you can discover 12 major innovations which in the future may change the way watchmaking is done. You can see Professor looking at what's happening behind the Perspex screen. Now, obviously, the watchmaking industry is constantly being renewed. Here's the lab again, and this is the exhibition, which I was saying is on the first floor, which you really should go and look. Put on some good trainers, because you're going to really do a lot of walking. I've gone around nearly all the brands to see what they are offering in terms of activities, in terms of experience. At Patek Philippe, you can see these large glass panels. You can see things in shop windows, and you can see exhibitions with collector's items. Very interesting. I would also suggest you go to Rolex to look at the 60 years of the Daytona chronograph. They've reproduced this to mark the occasion. Zenith is also important. There are lots of interesting things. There is something that you should realize, and that is you've got to go quickly to register because it's on a first-come, first-served basis. Oris in the same vein. Sessions around what the watchmakers do, how you assemble and disassemble the movements, and you can see that your children will be able to make a few drawings. And you can also win a trip to Holstein, if you want to go to Holstein, that is. There are other brands, such as Arnold & Sons, which, now, of course, you have to be in a small group, but you can get some interesting information. You can try the watches out. That's very, very pleasant. And what I would also recommend that you look at the identity of the brands to understand how they have evolved since the time when they were created 50, 60, 100, 200 years ago, how the designs of the cases. One case is not everything. There are different movements which will also characterize the watch. Going also to Jaeger-LeCoultre. You've got a water fountain which is totally revolutionary. It's the only place in the salon, incidentally, where it is quite fresh. So if you want to stop and refresh yourselves, I think you will be refreshed and you'll be able to go energized on to other parts of the salon. You can go and get all the information you need. Ask if you can try on watches. Some won't let you try them on, but for some of, or perhaps half of the brands will let you try watches on. You can also order a watch. Zenith, Oris, there are certain things which certainly can be done here at the salon. So let me just say, have a good day here at the salon. And I hope that you will enjoy your time here this afternoon, and thank you very much for listening to me.